So this one came up. Morris brought this up. The lady said in his nightly accountability to me, he said, the lady said, I'm not selling anymore. So he just dropped it and said something like, all right, well, if it changes, give me a call type thing. So how can we better handle that script wise? Anyone any ideas? I can't even talk.
I've had 5 of those in the last 36 hours. So
What do you say?
I followed up with, well, that's great. Do you think you're going to sell in the future? And it's 3 out of 5. I got a conversation started. So
Okay.
And
Any other ideas?
What changed from why they originally were selling?
Do you know, Adam?
Sorry. So for mine, 2 out of the 3, one was just a couple hours ago. They were putting it on the market. They couldn't sell it, and they decided to themselves pull it off. It wasn't just expired, so they're going to try in a year. So I told her in 9 months I'd buy it from her at her price, no problem. She just didn't have a place to go. Most of the people that I've been talking to that are, I'm going back through my expired the 3rd time, they are not in a rush because they're just sitting on it. They didn't get their price. They didn't get, or they got offers that they didn't like.
Okay.
And they're not rushing.
So Brian tossed out. Go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say, would you ask, hey, if you got your price now, would you still need to wait 9 months?
Yep.
Most for me, I did that. Yeah, that was the follow up to the. You're exactly right. They don't have a place to go. For me, that's my specific ones. They just don't have a place to go yet. So I did ask
Brian,
that. Thank you.
Brian, you threw one out before. I'll throw one out. And if you could think of the one you did earlier, but I would always ask, just like an expired, you guys. If it was Judy, I'd say, all right, interesting, Judy. So if it had sold when you're on the market, where were you going? Because that'll tell you all the motivation. I was just trying to high price. I didn't have it in mind. Okay, not motivated. So that will open up the can of motivation, good or bad. And there's a little FOMO there, right? You want to get the emotions in it, a little pain. Well, we were gonna go here. It was ideal home, but we lost. If there's some pain there, good, great. I think I can get you there. Brian, what was yours this morning?
Mine was regarding, I'm just gonna rent it, but I mean everything.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, this is like yeah.
Okay.
I'm with you. It's always like, if somebody gave you your full price today, would you sell it?
Yeah. I had someone, they were going to move because their house was more house than they needed. However, they were going to get less house if they sold because they had a good rate, and then they were going to, obviously purchase at a higher rate. So she said, it just doesn't make sense for me anymore. I'm going to get less house for more money.
Yeah, totally happening right now.
Yeah, her and everyone else.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, unless you're moving to cash, if you're leveraging more, you're going to be in a rougher spot. Yeah.
Too would not be a bad idea, Judy. And it's not saying that's in alignment with that seller, but it's I'm hearing a lot of people these days because of that specific scenario that they're renting for a couple of years, waiting for the interest rates to drop. Is that a possibility for you?
Oh, good.
I love that, because tack on to what Steve just said, Judy and everyone. What if you were to get all the money for your house? Say what Steve said. So if we can get you all the money for your house and then you go rent while the prices come back down, you get the best of both.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what you can say to a lot of people that say, I need the cash to go buy, right?
Yeah.
Could you rent and take the best price for me and go rent and wait for the market to come down?
Yeah, it's normalizing this situation, right? Because people are doing things they would never do before because of these interest rates, right? Someone who would never rent in their entire life, it's a better financial decision for them to do that right now because of the cost. And like you just said, the size of the next house can even be as close as big, or my payment's going to be higher for less house. Like everyone's dealing with that. So if they still have motivation, they have to deal with it somehow. If they don't have motivation, they can wait and we don't work with them anyways.
That's why this is so key to make sure you guys are super comfortable with this one question that came up. Does that give you some ammo?
I say that might work where markets where there's plenty of rentals. Sometimes it's as challenging to find a rental as it is a new home.
It is in my area. I couldn't find out if my life depended on it without getting crap.
Yeah. Like they might be able to find like a seasonal winter rental or something like that for, 7, 8 months or.
Uh-huh. So everybody got a little ammo out of that? A couple nuggets?
Mhm.
Okay. The next one, to Brian's point, was Paul Delory didn't say, I don't know how to answer. He said, can we revisit and kind of bat around the seller that says, I'm just gonna rent it? Because that's also prevalent right now. I'm just gonna rent it. So what do you guys
How many-
say about that?
How many rentals do you have? That's my
So-
first question, because if they say 0, this is the only one, it's not their cup of tea. And
Well,
I
Brian,
can
you said
filter
a
out
similar thing, didn't
a
you?
pass.
Yeah. Are you prepared to be a landlord?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. What else could you guys do if it was, I'm gonna rent it?
What if I could get you the same payments and take all the headaches?
AO, right?
Right.
Ayo.
Spot on, Adam. Yep, that's the only other thing I brought up this morning, unless Steve, I don't know if you or Rusty think of anything else.
Yeah, if you
They
can get-
still wouldn't be a landlord. They still wouldn't be the landlord in a lease purchase, so it wouldn't just be for AO, right? Because you're the buyer.
No, right. If they want to deal like this set, they're gonna rent it. They don't mind dealing with the tenant buyer. You can pivot right back to sandwich the next sentence. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But even in AO, Judy, the tenant buyer is gonna treat it like their own home. They're not gonna be calling them at midnight.
That
Is
was
there-
my point.
That's the understanding with tenant buyers, that they're responsible for all they keep and all that.
Yep.
Even
So-
though technically they are the landlord, yes, but they're
Yeah.
not gonna be, taking those midnight calls for toilet stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. And Judy, could you, I know I always did. I always gave them both. If they were gonna be thinking landlord anyway, and to Adam's point, if they already been a landlord, I say, look, here's one option, here's the other. I do go both, AO and sandwich. If they were never a landlord, I might not scare them, but throw a little pain in there, go, look, these are, they're not 100% of the time. You 2 to 10% of the time, you could have a default. If you've never dealt with this, I think you might want to have us in the middle.
Yep.
Just a thought. Okay. Any other questions on that? This seems too easy. For the first 2 scripts.
Well, if
Adam,
you're
you could-
giving.
Go
Go
right.
ahead. No,
No,
I'm saying
no.
if you're given, if that's coming up, you're normally you either your VA has spoken to them about purchasing because they were expired, so they were trying to sell, right? Or you've spoken to them multiple times at a follow up. So it's just a matter of like, hey, did you give up on selling? Like, would you rather sell? Would you prefer to sell the house? Well, yes, I would. Well, why are you renting? And then just that could maybe, especially if it's multiple discussions, maybe they haven't given the motivation. That also screams motivation because they have to go. So I'm going to rent it. So they're going somewhere. So just like use that to get to that place to where, all right, where are we trying to go? What are we trying? And when do you need to go there by?
That simple 11 minutes we just had there on scripts, guys, might be worth playing over and over just to redo it. Adam, just by the sheer amount of calls you've done, the clarity in just some of your scripts now is night and day from even 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So it's just because you're doing the reps, you're doing so many calls. Josh,
And I was
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
sorry. I was going to reply to that because I've been extremely laser focused on sending no calls over 7 minutes, period. And I don't know if I mentioned this last Thursday or not, but Brian, the reason that you've been driving home, why, where, when, that so quickly is to try to recover on that second call sucks. And try to go backwards, it absolutely sucks. So if you can focus on just getting those nuggets the first time, I've been writing down, I talked to Chris this weekend and asked him about some of the dead leads I had, and I've been writing them down, trying to bring them, and I'm answering my own questions, writing them down, why I didn't get them to follow through. I'll follow up with them in another 6 months, but they didn't give me the information because I didn't get it out right away, and then backtracking didn't work. So
Then you have no reason. Well, you have a reason. You have no tactic or strategy to follow up because you're not following up on any pain or motivation because you don't know it.
Exactly.
Spot on. Josh,
Call one sets up call two.
And call one is followed by an email. Call two is not followed by an email. Doesn't turn out well.
email and or form letter, always in my book. Josh, sorry, I've said your name 3 times.
No, it's all good. So I had one that's a little bit different, but along the same lines. It's one of the calls I sent to you, Chris and Brian. So the seller motivation was they bought a bigger home. She needed her equity out immediately. So she said the terms wouldn't work, but then I asked her, like, one of the positives, I said, well, what are you going to do if it doesn't sell? What's your plan B? And she said, I'll either list it with a realtor or I will rent it to my sister. So how would you handle that? Because it sounds like she's like, doesn't really sound like she needs it that bad if she was going to rent it out to her sister. I don't know. How would you handle that one?
I'll let the coaches chime in. Great question. Great live question.
I guess the question is what's the problem we're solving? If she has lots of options and she has, I don't know if she has debt on the house, but if she does, first off, what do you prefer? Do you prefer to sell it or to rent it to your sister? Like, what's the end goal here? Best case scenario for you?
Right. And it sounds like she was, after she said she needed her cash, if she said realtor or lease it to her sister, the second option of renting it to her sister would not solve the first problem, which was getting all of her equity now.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
So is that where I just dig deeper and push her a little bit more? Like, well, what do you really need?
I guess the question is if she can rent it to her sister, then she doesn't need all of her equity now at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think I'm going
Right.
to call her back.
Brian, what you say?
I mean, just something like that where it's like it's so far. I'm like, what would you prefer to do? Like that's not, they're not even closely related. Like, I'll just listen with a realtor or rent to my sister. Like, well, which would you rather do?
Yeah.
Mm.
If you had it your way, what would you want? And you know what they're going to say.
Mm-hmm.
I would just focus on that. You don't want to. You got to be careful with the family stuff, right? It's
Yeah.
like,
And does her sister need housing or does she have options? Because if she has options, then you have options potentially with her.
That's interesting that she said her sister can't even afford it right now, but that she was going to afford a house. So that's how she was going to help her out.
Mm.
So she's doing her sister a favor, not the other way around, filling a house.
Yes.
I go back to Steve's thing tells you everything. Go ahead, Brian.
yeah. Doesn't work out before you lower your price with your realtor or let your sister live there for free. Let's talk.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to convince. You're not going to unconvince her of said plan. Like she's doing that regardless of what you say.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Also,
most of them are going to do that. Most of the sellers are going to do what they're going to do. So just let them do it, and then just be there when it doesn't work.
Mm. And then my brain also goes to, like, I don't know if there's debt in this house, but let's just say there's debt on the house, right, Josh? Like,
We know.
Yes, there was a mortgage.
okay, so people who do lease purchases don't do them because they want to; they do them because they need to. So if she can afford to house her sister for either nothing or a discount, she's not typically your client either.
Right, because the pain isn't there. And she's already bought a bigger house already. So, okay.
Even if she bought, I don't know, even if she bought, I agree with you, Steve, but I'm saying even if she had bought another house, like money's still green, like she's still gonna have that expense.
That gets
She'd
old.
rather be gone.
That'll get old.
Yeah. So record it, Josh. That'd be a good one for us to help you with since we brought it up here.
Yeah. Oh, I have it recorded. I'll send it again.
I meant your follow-up.
Oh, you got it.
Because you got some nuggets
Thank you.
now.
What I think is important too, when you have these odd phone calls with odd situations, is detach yourself from how you can insert yourself into the deal and get curious on the situation. Because if you don't know the situation, there's no way you can insert yourself anyways.
Love it.
I've
Good
got an
stuff.
example of that odd situation. A guy, an investor that he literally started a house. He had it rented out. He started it to rehab it, and he ran out of money. But he's moving to Atlanta, and it took me 10 more minutes of talking that I didn't want to get to his why. He's got a mortgage that he borrowed from a hard money lender that he can't pay anymore. So
That hurts.
it took 10 minutes to get to that point, but he can't sell it because he doesn't want to finish it. He doesn't want to put any more money into it. So anyway,
That'll drop to three minutes or 2 minutes soon. You're getting there.